Hello and welcome to CS3 Photoshop Navigation Tools you will use often, Part 2, Window tab, Toolbar, and we're going to use the planet Earth for our demo practice today. So with this worksheet, you're going to need to draw the symbol associated with the term. You're going to need to explain where it's located in Photoshop and explain how it's used. So the first one is Window Workspace. This is actually going to be a few steps I'm going to have you take to set up your workspace. And we're going to start with Window. And we want to turn this 3D option off. We want to make sure Layers is turned on. We're going to also make sure History is turned on. Okay, so we got History selected, Layers selected, and Navigator. So we want to have three. We're gonna now move this Navigator over here. Close this up. Move this over here, and we're gonna come back over here to History, and we're gonna move this over here. Okay, so now we want to have. We're going to actually move our layers down a little bit. We're going to have Navigator on top. We're going to have the History in the middle. And we're going to have Layers on the bottom. Let's see here. Let's do that again because I want to move this over here, move this over here. And I'm going to bring this down. Okay. I'm going to expand it out a little bit. You can see here that we can move these around a lot, okay? That's totally fine. We can move these around a lot. I'm going to have this at the bottom. I always like to have my Navigator at the top. And I'm going to have my History. I'm going to move this down a little bit so I can see a little more of this History dialog box. I'm going to move this right here in the middle. Okay. And I'm going to move my layers down. So I've got Navigator on top, I've got History in the middle, and I've got Layers on the bottom. Now, this is perfect. This is the way I want it set up. I'm going to come over here to a window. I'm going to go to Workspace, and I'm going to say New Workspace. I'm going to call it my first name, Christina's Workspace, and I'm going to save this. And now this is my default workspace, and you can see right here at the top it says Christina's Workspace. So if I go to Window Workspace, it's right there. It's checked on Christina's Workspace. Perfect. Now I want to change, we have our History dialog box open here, and I want to change exactly how many steps I can go back in the History. I want to go back to at least 1,000 steps. If I go to Edit, Preferences, and I go to Performance, I want to make sure that my History states is 1,000. Okay? We're going to say OK. So if I go back now and check it again, go to Edit, Preferences, History States, it's set to 1,000. So good. So that means that I can do 1,000 steps. And as long as I keep my document open, I can do 1,000 steps, and I can go back to the very first step if I wanted to. Great, so we did number 1, we did number 2. Now we're going to go on to number 3. The History dialog box has a little snapshot option. Okay, so right down here at the very right corner of the History dialog box, you're going to see a little camera, and it says Create a New Snapshot. And what this does is, anytime you make a bunch of changes to this, let's say I go over here to Adjustment Layer, I'm going to go black and white. I'm going to close this because I don't want that open. And I'm going to, let's say I really like this in black and white. And let's say I want to create a little snapshot of this. If I click on this little button here, it creates a black and white snapshot of the current steps I've done. Okay? And if I don't say I don't like it though, I can always click back on the Earth and it'll take me back in History to the original layer, which is when I opened it. It was just a picture of the Earth, and all you had is just one layer called background. But let's say I really like the black and white earth. I can just click back on that and it'll take me to that snapshot. So what this does is it takes a snapshot of your history at the point that you're at. And it's good for, you know, like let's say you've been editing a picture for a while and you really are happy with what you have. Go and take a little snapshot of it, because if you do a bunch of changes to it after that point and you're not happy with those changes, you can always click back on your little snapshot and it'll take you back to your original point that you were happy at. Okay? So now we're going to come along and we're going to go to number 4. We're going to go over here to our vertical toolbar. This little arrow tool at the very top, this is our move tool. Okay, so I want you to draw this symbol on your paper. Okay, and when you click on this move tool, note that it's located along the vertical toolbar and at the very top. And you'll notice that this horizontal toolbar changes, okay, depending upon the tool that you're clicked on. So when we click on the Move tool, we want to make sure that our Show Transform Controls is always checked. Okay, always checked. That is extremely important. Okay, so we want to make a note of that on our notes here. Show Transform Controls needs to be checked. Okay, now we're going to come down here to number 5, our Quick Selection tool on our toolbar. So this is our quick selection tool right here. Okay, it's basically a little paintbrush with kind of a dotted oval shape. Okay, so we're going to click on our quick selection tool and let's see, I am going to open, I actually have a document that I created of these tools. I drew like a little, okay, well I can't find it right now, so I'm not going to worry about it. So this little, you'll see that after you click on the quick selection tool that you have a new horizontal toolbar here, and you'll see that there are 3 choices. You've got this one right here, which is new selection. You've got the middle one, which is new selection, and if you just positive new selection, okay, so you're going to be able to add to the selection. So you have new selection, you have add to the selection, and then you have subtract selection, which is the little minus sign. I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of this layer because I really don't need it for my demo, so I'm going to delete that and just have my original background. So we have new selection, which is just the paintbrush with the little dotted oval, and then we have add to the selection, which is the paintbrush with the dotted oval and a plus, and we have minus selection, which is a little, or subtract from the selection, which is a little oval with the minus. Okay, so we've got add to the selection, subtract from the selection. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to click the add to selection. We're going to come down here and you'll notice that using my bracket tools, we learned how to use our bracket tools last class, that we can increase the size of this. We can, if we click on the left bracket, it makes it really small. If we click on the right bracket, it makes it bigger, okay? And this is how the quick selection brush tool shows up when we are in a document, okay? So now we're going to come over here. So I want you to draw this, you know, the circle with a plus in the middle, and then the circle with the minus in the middle, okay? I want you to draw this on your worksheet. If it has a plus in the middle, that means that we can select. So what happens as I start to click here, you'll start to see little marching ants, these little lines. We're going to go all the way around and we're going to select this entire planet. Okay? Oh, over-selected. Woo! What do we do if we over-select? Well, we just come over here to the negative and we go around again and we deselect. So now we're subtracting our selection. We're deselecting. Come back to the positive because I've got some more to select. I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller, so I'm going to use my bracket key on my left bracket key. I'm just going to very carefully go around this edge until I feel my entire planet has been selected. Okay. So probably a small brush is a good idea when you're doing this, so you have more control. Just little clicks. So once you think you have a good selection, I'm going to come over here and make it minus. I'm just going to go a little bit around the edge here and just take some of the selection out. So now I'm going to come back here and look at my little earth here and make sure everything is selected, little marching ants going around the edge, and it looks fine. So now we're going to come up here to refine edges. So refine edges is along the horizontal toolbar. We're going to click on refine edges and it's going to pull up all different types of options here. Okay. First of all, you're going to see radius. Let's play with radius. Let's see what happens when you select radius. Well, it kind of helps to improve the edges with a soft transition. So I want you to write that down. It improves the edge with a soft transition. Now we're going to come over here to contrast. What happens when we select contrast? It makes the edges more crisp. Okay? It makes our edges more crisp. What happens when we come over here to smooth? Kind of removes jagged edges along the selection. It removes the jagged edges along the selection. What happens when we come over here to feather? Wow, it blurs the edges evenly all around the selection. It blurs the edges, and we don't want it to be too blurred, okay, because then it starts to crop into our earth, so we just want it a little bit blurred. Contract, or now we have what's called shift edges, okay, so on CS5 we have shift edge instead of contract and expand, okay, so cross out contract and expand on your paper and write down shift edges, okay? And when we select that, we can see that it's expanding out and it's going beyond the earth, now back into the black. If we go all the way up to 85 or 96 or 100, we come back to like the middle, which is where we started from. You'll see that it's perfect. If we go down to negative 100, it actually crops into the planet. So let's just go back to the middle. We don't need to shift the edges at all on this. Okay. So now we're going to say okay, and we have ourselves, what we have here is a really good selection. And how do we know this is really good? Well, I'm just going to show you something really quick. I'm going to go over here to File, New. I'm just going to create a blank document, and I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to go back to my earth. If I go Edit, Copy, come back here to my window and go back to Untitled and go Edit, Paste. We now see what our selection looks like when it's pasted on a white piece of paper, and that looks pretty good. All right. So there are definitely going to be projects that we do in this class where you are going to be required to make a selection like this copy it and paste it into a new document. All right, so now we're going to talk about different types of quick masks, okay? So right down here, you're going to see this little symbol. It's like a little square with a circle in it. If we click on that, that allows us to edit in the quick mode. And this is the standard edit in standard mode, okay? So when we click on that, it automatically puts what's called a red quick mask around our planet. If we click on it again, it turns it off. So when it's like this, this is called normal mode. Okay, so standard or normal view. Okay. When we turn this on, it automatically turns on the quick mask. It's like a red mask, and it surrounds the area not selected. Okay, it surrounds the area not selected. Right now, we've selected our Earth, so we haven't selected the black part. So it just surrounds the area that it's not selected. We can use this quick mask by using our paintbrush tool. So if we come over here and click on our little paintbrush tool, I'm going to make a smaller brush here using my bracket key. So if we have the black on top and we go like this and we paint with our black tool brush, all we're doing is just adding more red. But look what happens when I go over the planet. I'm starting to paint in the planet. Okay? If I select white on top, black on bottom, and I go back in and paint, it removes the red. Okay? It removes the red. So basically we're using a paintbrush now to make a selection. Okay? We're using a paintbrush to make a selection. Now, how do we check our selection? We check our selection by coming back here to our quick selection tool. Okay? And then we go back over here. Okay? And we want to push the Q. So there's two different ways to do this. We can push the Q on our keyboard, and all of a sudden we'll go back to the quick selection mode, or we can push the Q again and we'll go back to the paint mode. Okay? We can also click this little button as well. So we've got two different ways to do it. We can just click here on the vertical toolbar, or we can click on the Q on our keyboard. Either way works. Okay? So when we're back in here, we click back on our quick selection tool. We can go over here to refine edges and check that out. And boy, when we did that little painting demo, we didn't do so well on that. So there's two ways to fix this. You can basically paint it back in, or go back and use our little quick selection tools again. So I'm actually going to go to the minus, and I'm going to kind of bring this in closer to the planet, like this. And I'm going to go to plus and bring this out a little bit like this. Alright. Then I'm going to go refine edges and check that out. We need to definitely work on our radius. We need to work on our smoothness, our little feather here, our contrast a little bit. Give it a little more contrast. Our shift edge is fine. We say OK. I'm going to come back down on my brush, and I'm going to turn on my quick mask again and look at that. Or, I can use the Q on the keyboard as well and go back and forth. All right, so I'm going to go back and turn on my quick mask. Now, I just want to let you know that when you go to paint this in, okay, you are painting red at a 50% opacity. So you're going to fill in the blank on your worksheet where it says, you then paint in your selection with a 50% opacity red. To undo, you set your foreground to white and your background to black, and you would go back in and paint over it again. Okay? All right, so now we're going to come down here and we're going to do our toolbar. We're going to go right down to our toolbar, our vertical toolbar, and we're going to crop on our, we're going to click on our crop tool. Our crop tool is right here. And first let's put this back into regular view and let's remove our selection. Okay. And then we're going to come back here to our little crop tool, click on our crop tool. So you want to draw that there on your paper. And we want to click on our front image. It tells us the current image size, which is 7.361 inches by 5.139 inches at a 72 resolution. We can adjust the width if we want to. Let's say we want to crop this to a 5. Let's say we want to adjust the height to 4. And let's say we want to keep the resolution at 72, or we could even change it to like 150. And we can clear everything too. It just completely clears it all out. But let's make this 5. Let's make this 5, and let's make this 72. So now we're going to come over here and we're going to set our crop. And we're going to go enter, and it's going to crop exactly the way we set it up. It's 5 inches now by 5 inches with a resolution of 72. If we come over here to image size, we're going to see that it's 5 by 5 with a resolution of 72. And we're good to go. So this concludes CS3 Navigation Tools, Photoshop Navigation Tools Part 2 using the little planet. And you're going to want to experiment with this as well.